Hello and welcome to episode... what episode? 39. Man,
yeah, I know. We're getting old.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
We have as many episodes, as many years as you've been on the planet almost.
Touche. So welcome to episode 39 of Life in General. My name is Nick.
And I am Ian.
Why didn't you do your robot voice?
I will do it however the fuck I want, whenever I want.
Man, you're awfully mouthy tonight. I'm going home.
Okay. You just, turn in your chair?
Any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@lifeingeneralpodcast.com. Check us out on Twitter at LIGpod. We're on Facebook, and we're not on any other social media stuff. But.
Why are you talking to me? I'm not on any of it.
I know. Check us out on our website, lifeingeneralpodcast.com. It's got all of our previous episodes on there. I'm in the process of revamping the website. Should be done here, I don't know, next couple of weeks or so.
Sure.
We're on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, Podcast Addict. We've applied to be on, what did I say?
Spotify and
Spotify, yeah.
They don't like us.
Yeah, they don't like it, apparently, because I haven't heard anything back. And it was a couple of weeks
ago. They probably
ago.
listened to it and said, why the fuck do we want these guys?
Well, I don't know if... Somewhere I was reading that Podbean... I guess this kind of goes into what we were talking about tonight, but I think that they pay out. I don't know if they do for their podcasts, but I wonder if that has something to do with their selection process.
Oh.
Maybe they're... I don't know.
Because Spotify does pay out.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So
I don't know.
And no one's going to pay for this.
Why not? Someone might.
I don't know. I just kind of thinking about it, that I actually kind of felt the disappointment in your when I said I'm not on any social media. You even had this look on your face like you wanted to cry. Like I've tried with this guy. I've tried to get him involved, but he just keeps disappointing me.
Pretty much. Story of the last 30 years that we've known each other, I guess.
I guess to a point. At least I'm consistent.
It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff to keep up with. But.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Anything you want me to do, just tell me to do it, and it'll get done. Don't just say, you should do it, because I won't do it. Say, you need to do this, you have to do this, and you have to do it by this time.
Is that what it is?
Yes. I need structure.
Give you a deadline?
I need structure in my life. I can't offer myself structure.
You mean I don't know, like writing a blog or something?
Right. I wrote a blog. I hate it. I can't stand it.
Really?
Yes. It's almost done. I don't like it. It doesn't flow the way I wanted it to, and it comes off as weirdly misogynistic.
Really?
In a sense, and that's kind of what it's against. And it's weirdly in defense of. I don't know. I'm either going to have to completely rewrite it or at least edit it quite a bit to get what I'm trying to say across without sounding like an asshole. Because that's kind of what it's coming off as.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Well, send it to me. I'll read it. And
I'll let you read it.
So we're going to talk about records and streaming music and all that stuff. Because I'm as sort of a music snob.
Yeah. And we do movies pretty much on all the time on our other show, which is called Entertainment Now. Check it out. Because no one is checking it out.
Nice plug there, Ian.
Yeah. Well, I figured, what the hell? We get more listeners of this show. Maybe they might listen to our other show. Maybe. You never know.
So we grew up in the vinyl era.
The end of it.
Yeah.
I would say the last 10 years of it.
The last 10 years
15,
of it.
Well, 10, 12 years of it, yeah.
Because it wasn't really until the late 80s, I think...
CDs started coming out in 83, 84.
So my brother got a CD player in 89, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If it coincides with the first CD he got, because I know which one it was.
It was Alice Cooper's Trash.
Which came out in 1989.
That and, what was that Tesla album?
So the big one?
Yeah, that had
remember the
Love
name.
Song on it.
Yeah. Which, that song is good only because of the guitar at the beginning.
The guitar at the beginning is awesome.
Yeah.
So, and I was really late. I tried to stay away from CDs as long as I could. I don't think I owned my first CD until It was after I graduated high school, so it was like late 90s.
Yeah. You were definitely late to it because I remember you were still listening. You were still listening to cassettes when you were driving. Remember?
Yeah, because you melted my
copy of Kerplunk.
Yeah, Kerplunk.
I didn't melt it. The sun melted it. I just left it in
up there.
I left it on the dashboard. What was the name of that? It wasn't Mechanical Resonance?
Nope. It was
The Great Radio Controversy?
Yes, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yes, that's what it was. Because that was really relevant.
Well, I like to know these things.
So I had a pretty decent record collection growing up. I remember, like, one of my first memories, I remember, like, listening to Thriller on my record player. I swear I
wore that thing.
Well, I wore needles out with that damn record.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, that was kind of the first... I don't know how to... It wasn't like a rite of passage, but when I was presented with a record player, I think I was 7, maybe? 6, 7? And it was a hand-me-down record player, stereo.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. It's like, okay, this is you're growing up. You're growing up. You get your own record player.
I'm all grown up now.
Exactly. And most of the records that I had were all just hand-me-downs at that point. But that's how I listen to music. And when I say 6 or 7, we're talking 1985, 86. Well, 85. I was 7. So vinyl was still very much relevant. Mm-hmm. But my earliest record memories was going into Harmony House, which doesn't exist anymore for all you kids out there.
God, I even forgot that existed.
Yeah, Harmony House was a big record store chain in Michigan, and I think maybe in northern Ohio.
Yeah, it was a couple states.
It was just it was a chain, but a small chain. All I saw was music, records. And back in the day, it was pretty much all records. They didn't even have tapes. And I being like maybe 3, and my dad taking me in there because he had records, bought records. And this is the early 80s, so, you didn't have your kids tied to a tether, and I wandered. Yeah. But it was a small store.
Yeah.
And I just remember, being little and not really understanding what we're looking at, other than knowing what kinda, but just looking at the album covers. And that's back in the day when vinyl was it. They put a lot of effort into their album covers.
Yeah, they really did.
And the two that stood out... And every time we would go in there, they would always be right in the front. Because I was little, I couldn't sort through them. They would always be in front. And I guess I would have been a little older because 84 for the one. Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry, and Ozzy Osbourne's Speak of the Devil, which is a live album. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, every time we would go in there, those two albums would be sitting in the front as I'd be wandering around looking at stuff. Yeah. And they were kind of, for a kid, they're kind of creepy looking album covers, in a sense. But that was my early vinyl memories. But I had vinyl, that was it. I had the very first vinyl record I ever owned, personally, was the original cast recording of Popeye the Movie with Robin Williams.
Really? That's funny. Yeah. That's 80...
That was 1980.
Was it?
Yep.
I thought it was 81 or 82. But
no, that was 1980, and that was the first one I owned. I was probably 3 when I got it.
Yeah, that's funny. So. I remember when I was little, making popcorn in the fireplace on the thing, and we just had
Jiffy Pop.
Yeah, and we'd have the lights off in the living room with the fireplace going and record player going in the living room, and I don't know, it's just cool.
It was just kind of a natural thing. It was just the way it was. You know, music came on records.
Yeah, and I grew up in a somewhat of a musical household.
Yeah, me too.
Especially my dad. My dad's always been into music and things like that, and my mom, I guess not so much, but so there was always music and stuff going on, and so I don't know. Vinyl.
They were children of the 70s.
Yes, and I don't know, vinyl. Like you said, I was always drawn to the artwork of it. You know, the covers were always really cool, and it just holding the vinyl in your hand was kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, there's a physicality to it in every sense. And this is as an adult how I appreciate it. There's the physicality of holding the record, the album covers, being able to look at them, turn them over, take the record out, placing it on the turntable, moving the needle, setting it down. But even in the terms of its playing, it's all it's all physical. Yeah. Everything about it's physical. It's the vinyl record is turning and needle is hitting the grooves and making the music coming from that. Everything about it is physical.
Yeah.
And there's a warmth to that. Even with the hisses and the pops, there's a warmth to it that I don't think can be recaptured in digital of any kind.
Not at all.
And it was never even recaptured on cassette. The only thing that was nice about cassettes were the convenience factor.
Mm-hmm.
Which I had a lot of cassettes too. Most of the time I'd say I bought more cassettes than vinyl. Because it was the 80s. You could listen to them in your Walkman,
mm-hmm.
you know. But just that, like I said, as an adult looking back on it, there's just that warmth connection you have with the physicality of that music being played to you.
And it's funny how we've gotten so far away from that, but
it seems like it's coming back though.
It is.
That's kind of what we're talking about.
So in the late 80s, well, prior to the late 80s, record stores were able to return unpopular. So they'd get a huge shipment of records then, mm-hmm. and they'd kind of sell through whatever was popular, and they would even have a lot of stuff that wasn't popular, just kind of off the wall kind of stuff. But they were able to return those, so they could return the less popular ones and order new stock basically. Yeah. So and then like the late 80s, like 88, 89, somewhere around there, the record companies were finally like, you know, we don't want these back. You're not moving them.
That's your problem.
Yeah, it's your problem. So they either reduced the amount of money that they'd give for the returns, or they would just stop taking the returns back altogether.
Which meant stores were starting to buy less.
Yes, exactly. So stores didn't want to get stuck with this stock that isn't moving.
Mm-hmm.
So they dedicated a lot less space in their stores to vinyl,
because CDs were starting to pick up.
See, and that's the thing is the record companies wanted to move people into CDs,
right? Because
they were cheaper to produce, they could sell them at the same price and make more money off of it,
right?
So there was this effort to move people into that. So I think that probably had a lot to do with the reducing of record sales, really, because it was all profit driven.
Well, it was profit driven, but it was also, there was this, I don't want to say it was like a craze, but there were selling points to CDs. If eventually vinyl will break down, especially if it's not taken care of.
Yeah.
Whereas untouched, a CD is fine forever, theoretically, as long, like I said, as long as it's untouched, not scratched up. There's no reason, and there was this thing about clarity, where you don't get the hisses and the pops, and I can see some side of that. You know, but if you have a decent record player and a decent needle, those hisses and pops, and if you take care of your records,
you're not going to have that issue.
You're not going to have the issue as much. And like I said, it adds warmth. But to that time period, it's like a new technology. Like, even we still do it today. They take Apple. They can sell you an iPhone 22 a year after they sell you the 21 with like minor upgrades, but people fucking fly out and buy it. So it's the same thing. It's this new technology. CDs were smaller. They took up less space,
and they're mobile.
They weren't quite mobile at the beginning. They became mobile very quickly.
Yes, but I mean, they had Walkman,
CDs, Discmans they called them.
Discmans, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, but even that was
because you'd walk and make it skip.
That, and then they would sell you the more expensive one with the shock absorbers and all that stuff. But those were even more like early 90s. I'm talking like the late 80s when the CD craze was really kind of kicking in and starting.
Yeah.
And there were other benefits. You could get more capacity, too.
Yeah.
A vinyl record really has a 45, 50-minute limitation. So in cases where a double album would be required, you didn't necessarily need that now.
Yeah. And that's where it became a lot more popular.
Right.
Well, it was a lot more inexpensive for the companies to press
and cheaper for
one
us.
CD.
Right. And
not really, because
to a degree, instead of having to buy a double record where they might charge $25, you could get the CD that was one CD for
16.
And
I don't even think records were more A lot of the ones I remember,
No,
they
when
weren't
they were
over,
back in the day,
they were $20,
15 to $20. Yeah.
So CDs weren't really that much cheaper.
No, they weren't. They never really were until, say, the mid '90s when the Best Buys and stuff started coming out with $10 CDs.
Yeah.
That was the selling point for Best Buy. They sold a huge selection, and they were $10.
Yeah. So it was probably costing them half the price to produce the material.
It's a matter of cheapness for sure, and there is a cheapness to CDs, which it really took us all a long time to really realize how short-term CDs really are.
Yeah.
To the point where they were almost super disposable. I mean, look at how people would keep them. I mean, we were all guilty. We had those CD books. I still see people with those Visor CD holders.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're just so disposable. Yeah. And it was kind of built into the model where vinyl is not. It's a collectible.
Yeah.
You're not just buying it to listen to it. You're buying it to own it.
Because it's art.
There's an art. Exactly. There's an artist.
The actual vinyl and the cover and the whole package, it's art.
Have you ever watched? There's a YouTube video that shows how vinyl.
No, I don't watch YouTube videos.
You don't?
Seriously, I do not watch YouTube videos.
Well,
I fucking hate YouTube.
Why?
I don't know, because nothing but a bunch of trash.
No, it's trash when you look for trash. If you look for good stuff, you find good stuff.
Nope.
I watch YouTube all the time. I don't watch trash.
So if your sentence ever starts with, "Hey, did you watch this YouTube video?" The automatic answer is no.
Well, I'm going to tell you. There's a YouTube video that shows how vinyl records are made, and cool. It's really fucking fascinating.
That's cool.
So, watch that. Get over yourself. Get off your high horse and watch that. Instead of saying it's all bad, just there's good in everything. Find the good.
Just like all the news channels are bad. It's all trash.
Well, I can't necessarily argue with that. But YouTube is you have the choice. You don't have to watch the videos that are on there. You can watch the videos you want.
I just choose to watch other things.
Oh, that's fine.
So even though there was this like forced movement from vinyl to CDs in the late
forced, but very
80s.
easy. They didn't really have to work too hard.
Yeah,
it was a new technology.
But there was vinyl sales in the U.S. still grew from about 300,000 or a little over 300,000 units in '93. So it was a much smaller number from what it was in the 80s. I don't remember the exact numbers.
You said numbers still grew. So what did they? You mean they dropped?
No, they grew.
Vinyl sales grew until what year?
From '93, they went from about 300,000 units until 2000. In 2000, they hit 1.5 million units. So they were still growing through
vinyl records.
Vinyl, yes,
really,
yes. Vinyl sales,
because you couldn't find a vinyl record in a high end store. You had to go to like flea markets and shit. I
remember seeing vinyl. I remember Media Play had vinyl.
I never remember seeing that.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Yeah, hell yeah, they did.
Wow. I was very unobservant then because I never saw that.
But you figure at the time, through especially the mid to late 90s, everyone bought vinyl. Everyone bought CDs. So you weren't paying attention to the
right.
To the vinyl
well, I just didn't know. Well,
like
and I didn't have a record player either, but.
But I remember because we used to go to Gibraltar a lot.
Yeah,
they always had
new stuff. I mean, they
had a lot of new stuff there.
I never remember seeing new stuff.
So
it was always odd. It was odd to me when I noticed kind of coming back was 2008.
Yeah,
that was when I noticed it. And I was like, because it was actually because Metallica's Death Magnetic came out on the same day on a vinyl as it did the CD, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I saw there was a couple other. Section, it was kind of a small section, but I was at a store in Tennessee, and I think Ben Folds' albums "Way to Normal" came out that year. That was on vinyl. And
yeah. I remember Hastings had vinyl.
Yeah,
there too.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that was it wasn't Hastings I'm talking about, but when it's just kind of starting to come back.
Hastings was a store in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. By the way.
It was a chain that goes.
Were they a chain?
Yeah, but not up here. It was like Tennessee West.
Oh. So yeah, sales went from about 300,000, a little over 300,000 units in '93.
So it never dropped.
Well, it did because in the '80s it was probably, I don't remember what the number was, 750,000 to 1 million units a year, and
then it went down. To
it dropped, and then from '93 it went from 300,000 to about 1.5
progressively over the next 7 years.
It went to about 1.5 million units in 2000, but after 2000 it dived. It
dived again.
Well,
that
really
was
off.
Think about this. That was around the time of the early days of download too.
Yeah,
musical
it
download.
was.
So
'Cause they figured
I think
Napster
all music died then.
Probably.
All physical media started dying then.
But since 2006, sales have gone back up. 2007, which was when this, technically they call it the vinyl revival, I think is what they call it. Yeah, vinyl revival is what they call it. It started in 2007. So in 2007, there was 1 million units sold in 2007. 2008, it jumped up to 1.8 million units. And then it grew.
It's been growing progressively ever since.
Well, it went up slightly. So from what I say in 2008, it was 1.8 million units in 2008. 2009, it was 2.5 million. 2010, it was 2.8, so it went up a little bit. And then 3.9 and 4.6 million by 2012. But since 2012, it's really exploded.
Yeah.
Because so 2012, it's 4.6. The next year in 2015, it goes up to, 2013. 2013. And so it goes from 4.6 to 6.1 million units the next year. And then by 2015, it's at 11.9 million units. 2016, 13 million units. And then finally in 2017, it's 14.3 million.
Right.
So it steadily went up for a couple of years, and then it exploded.
Yeah.
So now this year, you're talking there's probably going to be excess of 15 million units sold in the U.S., which is a really big number.
That's a huge number for an industry.
They're saying that the vinyl sales right now are the highest they've been in over 25 years.
Right. And that's for an industry that has essentially almost given up on physical media, all for streaming, where more so than even the film industry and the television industry. Because the music streaming has been going on a lot longer, and it's cheaper.
Well, look at it this way. So, Sony Music, who's one of the bigger record
labels,
in March of this year, so March of 2018,
2.5 months ago,
they resumed in-house production of vinyl records for the first time since 1989.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing that's increased the price of them, too, is the fact that in order to get... There's a backlog of vinyl. There are bands and record labels and everything who are trying to get new vinyl repressings made, and they're on a waiting list to get these things made. So that's shocking that an actual label is moving strictly to in-house, yeah.
Which is something that
like you said, hasn't been done in decades.
Yeah, from the 40s and 50s all the way until the late 80s, that's what they all did. Everyone pressed in-house.
Right.
But, even with these numbers, like I said, 14 or 15 million units sold per year in the United States, it's still less than 6% of overall music sales.
Wow. See, I guess it's just shocking to me that, I mean, I understand buying music online, but it's weird. To me, I don't know. There's just, if you can get a physical copy, when you buy a digital, there's nothing to it.
I don't know. See, and that's kind of the funny thing.
The artwork, and take this for what it's worth. Since the advent of CDs, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but there's less effort put into the artwork of a record.
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
And a great deal of records made, say, since 1990, I think there's a drastic decline in the artistic level they put into the album covers.
I would say
there's exceptions for sure.
I would say you're right. I wouldn't say anything about I think you're looking at strictly like the
rock
early
music, maybe
late,
too.
But really late. I say 99 or 2000, so really late 90s through like 2010. I would say
fair
maybe
enough,
a lot of them were on your bland side, I would say. But really, since 2010, really since the vinyl revival, there's really been an uptick in
for sure.
In the quality of the artwork.
But take this for what it's worth. Is that because now it's going to be on something permanent, like a record that someone's going to own and collect? Do you think that has something to do with that?
No, I think it has more to do probably with something we'll touch on probably a little later, which is streaming music.
Right.
Because if you're an artist, like MXPX, who's a band if you've never heard of them before, they're a band out of Washington.
I love them, but I've never heard of them either.
They they did a Kickstarter this year, which they've never done before, but they're raising money because they're gonna produce and record their own album,
Right.
without a studio,
without
a label.
Yeah.
So they're
self-produced. Yeah.
but I think you're looking more at the streaming model, which is what they're going to do. The Kickstarter was you could purchase different packages. So there were some vinyl packages, a couple of CD packages, but most of it was all downloadable.
Right.
So
that'd be the low end, probably.
Yes.
Low end package.
Well, every one of their packages came with a downloadable version of the album.
Okay.
So if you're an artist, say you're an artist today, and you look at it and say, look, I can go into a studio for a fraction of the price. You can even
build your own studio.
You can even build your own studio at home. I mean, hell, you could probably record a really good album on the equipment we're using right now.
I would think so. Be hard to master it with what we've got, but
no, it wouldn't.
I don't know. I don't know how.
You'd need a different program that we use, but
Yeah, I guess the engineering side and all that. I'm not terribly familiar.
But you could go ahead and knock an album out like that for a fraction of the price, and then not worry about the cost to press a CD, to press an album, to make physical media with it, and you could spend more money and time into the artwork.
True.
If you're an artist, if you're a smaller artist, because that's always been the hard thing for smaller artists to do. Before the streaming and digital music era started, was finding traction in the music world because it was hard to get your music out there.
Right.
And it's a lot easier now, especially when you have things like SoundCloud, which you can go on and upload your own music to and have it out there. So I think the streaming has led probably to the ability to put more money back into the artwork of it.
Right. But the thing with streaming is that the need for the artwork is less. This is kind of not so much with streaming, but with downloading, because a lot of times.
Well, streaming downloading.
Take this for example. Jethro Tull's "Thick as a Brick." It's 2 songs on side 1 and side 2.
Well,
technically
one song.
Broken up into 2 parts because side 1, side 2. When Ian Anderson decided to do a "Thick as a Brick 2" in 2012, he wrote it as one piece, but then decided against that because in this day and age of digital download, some people may not want a 45-minute song, or even a 20-minute song.
Probably what ended that. What the bigger piece of that he was probably thinking about is charging for it.
True.
So you typically charge about 99 cents for a song,
but
for a track.
But also,
so for that one song, you'd have to charge $5 or $6 for that track, which you're probably gonna make more money off selling it 99 cents.
I'd have to look, but I've looked at iTunes. iTunes sells "Thick as a Brick" side 1 and 2 for $1.29 each.
Really?
I think so. I'd have to look at it again. Maybe look. You've got Apple, so you can look it up. But look at that again. You have to see if they have, because they have broken up the remastered version into parts. It's like 12 parts. So, but the original was just 2 parts, side 1, side 2. So you'd have to look and see. But I know it was cheap.
Really?
Yeah. And I can't see. I mean, I don't know how much influence he would have on that. Well, look at that one, because I think that's the 97 remaster.
See, I've got Apple Music, so it's not going to give me the price.
Oh, okay.
It's all free.
Yeah.
Well, it's not free, but it doesn't give me the price of the album.
Okay.
I would have to look it up on my phone. But
right. Okay. But see what I mean, though? It's broken up into 2 parts, and it's got that one had some bonus tracks, but if you look at just the 2 parts of the song. But in his explanation, I'm sure there was some money involved, but at this stage in the game, an artist who's been around for 50 years isn't really looking to be making money off of a new album. Because very few people are buying it. Now, people did buy that record. It was in the charts, in the international charts, for sure.
Okay, so iTunes does not sell the song individually.
They used to.
You have to buy the album for $12.
They used to.
Yeah. They probably got away with it, from it when they started Apple Music.
Oh, probably. So, regardless, but that was one of the things. So
I'm sorry. They do sell them individually. The one that they sell individually is
it's
eight tracks.
8 tracks, yeah. That's what I figured, and that's the one that just came out in 2012 anyway. So
yeah, and that one's $9 or $10
for the whole album.
For the whole album,
yeah,
or $1.29 a track.
Yeah. So when it came to, he rewrote it a bit to be able to break it up into parts.
Yeah.
So for whatever it's worth, whether it was for money, I don't think it was for money because he doesn't care about money. He's richer than shit.
They're always thinking about money.
I don't think he makes he does not make money off of record sales. He hasn't made money off record sales.
He's making
for
money off record sales because don't they have their own label that they release through?
That was released through Chrysalis Records or EMI, which owns Chrysalis Records. Okay. EMI is one of the biggest ones, and they're one of the most corrupt, by the way. EMI's huge.
They're all corrupt.
Yeah.
By the way,
EMI was sued multiple times by artists.
To touch on streaming music real quick, the money that the streaming sites pay very little, fractions of a penny
yep.
per play.
Yep.
70% of that fraction of a penny goes to the labels. 70%. The other 30 goes to the artists, the producers, the writers.
So, and that's just of the fraction. Which
Correct.
Spotify, for the most part, and I think you have the exact number, but it's about
I do.
0.0004 cents.
It is
30.
Spotify 0.00397. So
okay, so actually it's a little higher than I was thinking. So
no, it's lower.
I said 3 zeros and a 4. That's 2 zeros and a 3. So.
Yeah. Gotcha.
That's how I do my math, by the way. At least in that kind of decimal point type.
So was that 397 thousandths of a penny?
Hundredths of a penny.
Okay, yeah.
300ths.
Oh yeah.
Per play, and 70% of that goes to the record label that owns the song or is licensed to the song.
So you would have to get 1 million plays to make $1,300.
Right.
And that's. Well, I'm sorry. I was looking at Pandora's numbers. So 1 million plays to make basically $4,000.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Apple Music, it's if you have a million plays, you get $6,400.
And Spotify would be somewhere in between, right?
Well, no, Spotify's less.
Less than Pandora?
Oh no! It's less than Apple Music, but more than
right.
Than
That's
Pandora,
what I said.
Yeah.
That's who's in between.
So yeah, you're not making a whole lot of money off.
No, but
off
the
streaming.
key is that you get on. If it were me, like I said, I don't know how it works for recording artists that don't tour 6 to 8 months out of the year.
Well, artists only make money off their tours now.
Right. But I don't know I don't pay attention to artists I don't listen to and what they're touring. So, and I don't know how it works overseas. The bands I listen to do most of their touring overseas. Because they can do bigger shows there. Yeah. Because they're more popular.
Yeah.
When they come here,
the countries are also smaller. But.
True. But when they come here, they do smaller venues. And they're probably not making the same percentage. But most of the bands I listen to are touring 8-9 months out of the year, every year. Because that's where they're making their money. So you're not going to make the money on record. You might now. I don't know what if the record labels are smart, they're going to share any profits they're making off of vinyl. More so with the artists to keep artists on board.
It's probably still
you're going to lose artists.
It's probably still a really small number.
If a band like MXPX, which is a well-known band to a point, but they're
a small band.
They're a small band.
Two of their band members have regular jobs.
Right, and they've been around for 15 years.
They just celebrated their 25th anniversary last year.
Oh, so longer than I thought. If they can ask their fans to give them, what'd you say, 60,000?
Their original Kickstarter was set, I think, at 50,000.
50,000, and they ended up raising
over $200,000.
That was the point I was getting at. If a band like that, with a very small relatively small fan base can raise enough money to get 7 times what they need to make there's no reason they need a record label. So if a record label wants to survive, they need to start doing things to keep their artists happy.
There's a lot of other artists that are currently doing Kickstarters or have recently tried to do Kickstarters because I donated to MXPX's Kickstarter just because I wanted the vinyl. And there's a lot of Kickstarters on there for bands that they don't have more than $1,000 that's been donated to them, which that might be enough to get maybe a demo put together,
right? But I guess what the point is that there's options for bands and artists outside of the labels now.
Well, yeah, and that's something that's really changed in the past 10 years, because prior to the early to mid 2000s,
it was still too expensive to self-record.
Yeah, exactly.
I have an example in the reverse, kind of a band I like. I don't know the details, but I know that they had to do a bit of a crowdfunded. They crowdfunded their album X. It was like
who is this?
Spocksbeard. The album's called X, and they had to crowdfund it because they didn't have enough financial backing from the label they had or whatever. But they kind of a similar situation. They asked for X amount of dollars, and that's ironic that that's the name of their album. Yeah. I'm just using it as a
gotcha
indicator, and they ended up raising like 2 to 3 times that.
Yeah.
And whatever thinking their label had, or if they were with a different label, it got them a new contract with the label that they're on now, whether it was a brand new contract or just a revamped contract. Mm-hmm. And the last 2 albums were done in the traditional way. They didn't have to do a Kickstarter for them. So to me, it seems like that's the kind of thing. The record label saw that there's financial potential with this band. So let's invest in this band.
But if I'm a band and I'm able to crowdfund like that
and do it yourself,
I'd rather do it that way.
It does make more sense. But there are benefits to having a label. You have,
of course,
advertising backing. You've got stability, and just in case,
I think
no one goes out to make a bad album, but sometimes artists make bad albums.
I think in recording ability, because I look at back to MXPX, their 3 albums when they were with A&M are their best 3 albums, in my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah,
and their other albums are good, but I think those 3 are head and shoulders their better albums.
Do you think that had something to do with not so much just being under a record label, but not having to worry about the things that a record label would make?
Maybe.
And now as independent artists, they have to worry about all this other shit too.
And they made really good albums so they were with Tooth and Nail was the independent label they used before that. And when they made their album Life in General, which is where we got
the name for the
album. I stole the name for the show from, but that album was made with Tooth and Nail, and that was a really good album.
Yeah.
But slowly going the way of the Buffalo, which was their first album with A&M, in my opinion, it's one of the best punk rock albums of the '90s.
I'd have to listen to it again to go that far, but the same thing can be said with Green Day when they were on Lookout Records, their first 2 albums.
Kerplunk is an awesome fucking album.
It is, but just in quality. Because Welcome to Paradise is on Kerplunk and it's on Dookie.
Yeah.
The Dookie version sounds better.
Yeah, it's a
cleaner, have better produced version.
Yes.
But because they had the money of a record label behind them, and that was still the '90s, where things were still different.
Yeah.
I think maybe artists still got a little bit more for their records.
Because they never really got anything from the records.
But
they got something from the records, but
there was a time in the
now.
70s, there was no incentive for a band to put out the volume of music that they were putting out, because if they weren't making money off of those 2. Because all the bands back then were pumping records out every year.
I think that was
that was incentive. The record companies wanted, because that's where the record companies got their money.
Yes.
But
it also
shared it too.
But it also made it to where if you were a fan of band X in the 70s, and they came out with a new album, let's say in 1975, okay, and you bought that album, went and saw them in concert, and then they didn't release an album for the next couple of years, but they were still touring, I think most people would be less inclined to go see them again in 76 and 77
if there wasn't another
another
but see,
album.
no, the tours were designed to advertise the albums.
But yeah, because the record company wants to make the money off the album. But if you release new material every year or every other year, people are more inclined to go see you multiple times.
But that shouldn't have changed, and it has. Artists now take 2 years to put out a fucking album, and that's minimum.
Because I think
very few artists put albums out every year.
Yeah.
Very few. Even hip hop artists, where, like you said, they're doing home recording. They have the potential to pump out 3 or 4 songs in a day.
Yeah.
From recording to master, and they're still taking 2 years to put out a fucking album.
Because I think there's not a whole lot of incentive to it. Because as an artist, you're no longer making anything off your music, unless you're touring.
Yeah, I guess, but that's kind of what my point was. If physical media, vinyl, is what will save the record industry, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because ever since the Napster boom, the downloading, file sharing, stealing of music, the record labels have done nothing but cry bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Where they're sucking us dry. We're not making any
even
money.
though they're still making profits.
Well, of course, of course. And the bands too. Metallica, perfect example.
Yeah.
You're stealing food from my mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
That was essentially what Lars Ulrich was taught. You're taking food out of my kid's mouth.
Yeah.
By downloading our songs. There's physical media now. The record labels want to make sure that they're making money off of that. It makes sense. Yes, you might lose in the short term, but you'll gain in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially the point I was trying to make. Vinyl is the savior of the music industry as a business.
Yes,
and they need
even for the artists.
And right, and that's what I'm saying. And it shouldn't just be the labels;
No.
it should be the artists too. There has to be, because you can. It's not about convincing. If you create that market in a fair and just way, which I think they are, because it's kind of building itself, people will not. They'll have no problems going out and buying a record.
Yeah.
And a lot of albums, it seems like they've stopped doing it. Because when I started getting back into vinyl in, say, 2000, I guess it would have been about 2012, 2013, when I finally was able to get a record player and start buying my vinyl again.
Mm-hmm.
And rebuying vinyl that I had and don't have anymore. You buy a new one, and it would come with a digital download code.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because a lot of people still are listening to music on their tablets or devices, whatever. iPods. I don't think iPods really exist anymore necessarily.
Sure they do.
Yeah, no one's buying them because you can put it on your phone. Your phone. Can
a lot
be
of people
iPod.
still have iPods.
Yeah, I haven't used my iPod in 2 years.
Yeah.
So because I can just use my phone, and that's not even just streaming. I can put music on my phone the same way I put it on an iPod if I wanted to. But that, to me, was a sound business model, because you're not only... Most people are going to want a digital copy no matter what.
Yeah.
Because you can't really make a digital copy. Well, you can. If you have the right record player, you can make a digital copy.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But, regular...
They're expensive,
They're
but
expensive.
you can.
Well, not that much. I can get... the one I'm looking at is $300.
That's a lot for a record player. When you can get a decent record player for $100.
Right. But anyway, still... Come with the digital copy. You're buying the vinyl. The digital copy doesn't cost anything for them.
Yeah.
You're getting physical media. You're getting it in people's hands.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I think it's going to save the industry. I think it's already starting to save the industry. It's just got to be. It's got to work for everybody.
I think it's definitely going to make the industry more profitable.
Right, but that's got to work for the artists too.
And you're mentioning sales in Europe. I do have the numbers for the UK.
Okay.
Which the most recent numbers are from 2016. They sold 3.2 million units
just in the UK.
Just in the UK in 2016, and another 3.1 million in Germany.
Yeah. And those are probably markets that.
Those are the two biggest markets in
Europe, right? But also, I would think that those are markets that I know Germany specifically was way ahead of the curve on CDs.
Yeah.
And In fact, most of those early CDs that people bought in, like, say, 84, 85, were all manufactured in Germany.
Yeah.
So I would say vinyl probably took a bigger hit there first
Probably.
than it did anywhere else in the world. With the exception of maybe Japan, too, because Japan was producing CD players. They were making the CD players.
It was kind of funny, though, because I was so late into the whole CD phase. I mean, it's like I didn't buy my first CD until 10 years after they were popular. But I kind of adopted...
Yeah, it was like 97 when you got your first one.
Yeah. I think it was 96, 97, somewhere in there.
Do you remember what your first CD was?
I think it was one of Soundgarden's albums.
Okay.
And
it was shortly thereafter I got you. I had to rebuy your Kerplunk for you.
And was it Harvest by Neil Young, I think?
Well, I know I had that on CD. I didn't know if you did.
Yeah, I had it on CD. That and, I think it was...
those two.
Those two albums.
I honestly have no...
Bought it from Meyer.
I have no memory of my second one, but my first one was Ozzy Osbourne's The Ultimate Sin. First CD I ever owned.
Yeah. But it was funny, like I was saying, though. I was late into CDs, but I adopted digital pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't bought a CD since 1997. In 1997, I digitized all my CDs, and I took all my CDs and put them in the trash.
In 97?
I'm sorry, in 2007.
I was say no. I remember.
We talking
97 is when you started buying CDs.
Yeah. You threw me off. It threw me off. But 2007.
Yeah,
was the last time I bought a CD.
Yeah. Well, I've bought in CDs because I've bought. There are bands. Now I'm hoping not to have to buy CDs anymore because everything that comes out is coming out on vinyl. But there's certain things like some of the tall packages, these special edition packages they put out, are CDs. I'm buying those, but those are, again, for collectible issues.
Yeah.
They're coming in special packaging and everything else. And I'm buying them twice. Because I'm buying that, and I'm still buying the vinyl that's coming with it. It's coming out around the same time. And these are albums that I've probably already bought 2 or 3 times before now.
Yeah.
So take that for what it's worth, because you get real collectors who are going to do that kind of shit. They're going to buy albums 4 or 5 times over, you know,
for different
formats and they're going to buy albums that have been out for 50 years or 40 years that they had and don't have anymore, and it's new. I'll buy it.
Well, yeah, because I've done that with several albums, because I had a really nice album collection that I got from my dad when they no longer had a record player. I took all the records, or all his records. And I bought a lot from flea markets and things like that, whatever I could find in really good shape. So I had a pretty decent collection. And then when they moved, they threw them all out.
Yeah.
Which really kind of sucks.
Well, it's short-sightedness. My mom did the same. My mom did the same thing to me.
I got to go back and rebuy them all.
My mom did the same thing to me when I bought my CD player.
Yeah.
Because now, you don't need your records anymore. The only ones she let me keep were the ones that my dad had given me, specifically the Jethro Tull ones.
Yeah.
Because she knew those meant something to me.
Yeah.
But no, you got to throw those out because you have a CD player now.
Yeah.
You don't need them
anymore.
At
the time, you're probably like, whatever.
No, I was upset about it then,
really?
but I saw the logic to a degree because it's just space that's taking up space I'm not using. And at that point, who would have thought that CDs were made to were advertised to be the coolest thing, the best thing,
a superior
product, and they're not.
No. But the real quick, I did want to touch on streaming because it's something that's really come up the last couple of times, the last couple of years.
Anyway,
so there's really 5 big
streaming
services. The biggest is SoundCloud, actually.
Really?
Which has 175 million users. Spotify is second, which has 157 million users, but only 75 million of them are paying users.
And I'm one of the paying.
Pandora is third with 78 million, which I've used. I think I've used Pandora a couple times, but I never
liked it.
I
never used the paid version, but the free version it's not. I don't like it.
No. TuneIn Radio, which our show's on TuneIn.
I have that on my phone. I haven't played with it too much though.
I listen to a lot of like international radio on TuneIn. I listen to a lot of stuff out of the UK on there
for your football stuff, soccer stuff.
Yeah, soccer, real football.
Right.
And then Apple Music is fifth with 50 million.
That's weird that Apple's actually lower.
But if you look at it this way, so it took Apple 6 months to get to the volume of users that it took Spotify 6 years to get to.
Right.
And Apple is now adding roughly 2 million users a month to their service.
So they'll probably surpass, or
yeah, because if you look at paid users, you got 50 million for Apple and 75 million for Spotify. And Spotify's been around for a whole lot longer. Apple Music's only been around for a couple of years.
Arguably, you could say Spotify and Pandora kind of started the whole. Pandora has been around for. I remember dealing with Pandora back in 2005.
Yeah,
because there's a girl I knew that kind of got me hooked on it a little bit, and at the time I was still in the CD phase, so it didn't make much sense. But now Spotify, Pandora hasn't really changed much since then, whereas Spotify is more in tune with how I listen to music. Yeah,
and it was like you said it was right around the mid 2000s because in 2004 there were 160 million tracks downloaded. So it went from 160 million in 2004 to 795 million tracks in 2006.
It's dropped.
No, it went from 160 million.
Okay.
160 million to 795 million.
Oh,
so that's
numbers play differently in my head. That's sorry. They don't work in my head the way that they should.
So it basically it accounted for a revenue from about 397 million in 2004 to over $2 billion.
Wow. So the record companies are making fucking money.
Hell yeah, they are. And I know I use Spotify. I've got a free account for Spotify, and
that's even the free version is better than Pandora's free version.
Yeah, and I've used the free version of Spotify since 2011 or 12, somewhere around there.
Well, I was way later than that.
And but I pay for Apple Music. Just because the size of their catalog, basically.
Yeah. And I've noticed, because I've looked at it, I'm not...
Plus, they pay the artists a lot more money.
Right.
Double, pretty much.
There's stuff on Apple that they don't have on Spotify, but there's a few things I've noticed they have on Spotify that's not on Apple.
I haven't seen anything.
There's just little things, like
maybe some
single albums in a catalog, things like that. Things that bother my OCD when it comes to that kind of stuff, but...
Like what off the top of your head? I mean, what...
they still don't... Well, I shouldn't say still. As of 2 weeks ago, they still don't have the special edition of Heavy Horses.
No, I don't think they do.
Whereas Spotify does. Spotify, it took them an extra month from the CD release. They basically released it on their...
Well, what tracks are on Heavy Horses? This is bonus tracks version.
That is the 2003 remasters.
Yeah.
No, this is the 2018 40th anniversary edition.
Gotcha.
Which has like 50 tracks on it or something, like 40 tracks, something like that. Several unreleased tracks that have never been released anywhere else. That were found in boxes that everyone forgot about. Like 3 or 4 of them.
Well, look at the Steve Wilson remix on here.
Oh, that's the one. So they do have it.
Okay,
now.
They do have it.
And what tracks? The special tracks after track 10.
Oh, it's got 18 tracks on here.
So does it have? Yep. Okay, it's got. Okay, they've got it now. They might have gotten it at the same time that Spotify got it, but when I looked before, it wasn't there.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to say is there. So there was a couple of times where I know Apple paid. It was 2016, I think. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. They paid Chance the Rapper $500,000 for a 2-week exclusive for one of his albums. But outside of that, they've really tried to stay away from doing exclusive deals. At least Apple has, because they feel, and this is from a press release I'd read about it. They felt that it kind of hurt. Not only hurt the artist, because it kind of limits their
audience,
but they say it hurts the streaming services in general, because it hurts. Not necessarily the streaming services, but it hurts the listener, because the listener, if they like their artist, but their artist is on, they've got certain albums on this service and certain albums on another service.
That's kind of what I was talking about.
So basically, at least with the big two are Spotify and Apple.
Right.
So they've kind of tried to stay away from the exclusive deals because of that.
Huh. Well, I mean, it's pretty.
Or if they
respectable.
don't, it's short term exclusives.
Right. I don't see any problem with there being an exclusive for 2 weeks. If it's a forever exclusive, that's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's not like Chance the Rapper didn't get compensated for that, so I don't really think he would have lost out on it.
No.
I mean, what are the chances of any artist were getting $500,000 for one record?
Yeah.
This day and age,
Mm-hmm.
for a record.
Exactly. And you figure, so Taylor Swift, who, regardless of what you think of her music, she's one of the bigger artists.
Sellers, yeah.
The last numbers I saw for her last album off of Apple Music, I think they said she made like $300,000 or $400,000 off of.
That's just her take.
Yeah.
Okay. But see, that's kind of what I was talking about with Ian Anderson. I think it's Brick 2. He's not. He didn't make it to make money.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't. Which is why he doesn't make an album every 2 years anymore. He waits 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years when he gets the drive to just put something new out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in that sense, he figured it would be easier if someone doesn't want all of these songs, they can just pick and choose, and that's one of the benefits to downloadable content.
Yeah.
I guess.
As
far as streaming goes, I'm fairly new to streaming. I only started using Spotify back in maybe 2015, and I used it. I did the free version because I had an iPod. All the music I wanted was on my iPod.
Yeah.
The Spotify thing was just convenience, really, and it was very hit or miss. But it kind of got to a point where it was much easier to use my phone because the iPod was old. And it didn't hold a battery charge at all. If I unplugged it, it would pretty much die in about 5 minutes. So I had to keep it plugged in all the time. So it just became more convenient, especially at work where I was able to listen to it, through the store. And at that point, it was like, well, I think I can swing it. It was $9 a month then. Now it's $10 a month. I could swing it, and it just now it's kind of taken over my music outside of the house music playing.
Yeah.
When I'm at home,
It's
if
vinyl.
I'm listening to music, I'm listening to vinyl. But when I'm out in the car, you can't listen to vinyl in the car. I'm listening to Spotify.
Yeah, but the other interesting thing is with the whole streaming, and I don't know what Spotify's doing because I rarely use it. I mean, I use Apple Music every day.
Right.
But I know Apple Music's really actively investing in the production of music videos, of TV series and web series and things like that also. So they're kind of diversifying their market kind of.
Well, that's kind of,
it's
I was
not
going to point
just
that
music.
out. I was going to point that out. Apple has an advantage over all the other ones because once you have an Apple account, you can purchase music, you can purchase movies, you can purchase audiobooks all through iTunes.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't have those options with Spotify. So I would say eventually Apple is going to dominate everything because it'll be easier. Everything's consolidated into one place.
Yeah.
I don't like the interface with Apple. That's my problem. I haven't played around with it too much, but so far I don't like the.
When's the last time you used it? Because
I checked about that on Net Heavy Horses, so it was a few weeks back.
I mean, because what? Oh, you talking about on the computer or
no? Just on my phone. I haven't looked at it on my computer yet. So, but I never listen to music on my computer. So, ever.
Yeah. Well, I do.
If I'm at home, I'm listening to vinyl. So, but it's probably just little things I can get around. I haven't played with it too much, but Spotify was just very user friendly for me. And like I said, I can listen to music the way I want to listen to music.
Oh, I feel like the interface, as far as like usability, I think they're really similar.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, well, like I said, I didn't play
especially
with it that much,
on my phone. I mean, it's really easy to
Because I'm really weird. I don't mind listening to songs randomly and shuffle and stuff and having mixed playlists and stuff. But a lot of times, even when I'm in the car, and this is probably because I am a vinyl listener, if I listen to something, I want to listen to the whole album.
You can do that with Apple Music.
I know, and you can with Spotify. That's all I'm saying. That's my way of listening to music.
Yeah.
And if I am listening to random things, I have playlists set where I know exactly what I'm going to hear when my playlist is not so random that, I've got playlists for specific types of music, specific bands. So I know you can do all that with Apple. I'm not saying you can't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying Spotify was what I started with, and it's user-friendly for me, the way I like to listen to music. So,
Yeah.
Which may not be the same as how you listen to music or how someone else listens to music. But like I said, I as much as streaming as the dominant media source for music, I think vinyl is what's going to save the record industries.
Yeah.
I really do. That's just a personal opinion. I'm not an economist. I don't know all this stuff.
I see streaming could really work too. I mean, just as long as
It starts becoming more equitable.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing I was kind of going to touch on real quick before we end the show is there's been talk of Apple and Spotify eventually breaking off and becoming their own record labels. Because if you figure if Apple's paying, such a fraction of a penny for
A song.
a play,
Mm-hmm.
and 70% of that fraction is going to the record company, it would make almost more sense for Apple to become their own record label, and instead of 70%, take 30% of that, and then give actually more money back to the artist.
Right. Well, in a sense, they could also, arguably, if they started not necessarily creating their own label, but focusing on encouraging self-production, where they can still maintain a low payout, a little higher than what they're doing, but that money is going directly to the artist and the people who made the music.
And that's what I'm saying. They could go from they could probably
they don't have to pay. They don't have to have the artist on a label and a contract. They can just
but they could
buy those licenses directly from the artist.
But they could have, like I said before, they could have their own be their own label,
Mm-hmm.
where they have part ownership of the music. And like I said, they could take a reduced rate instead of taking 70%, take 30 or 35%, and they could actually go to the artist and say, "Look, you're getting this small fraction being with Sony or whoever you're with, but if you come sign a contract with us, we can double that or maybe quadruple that."
You don't think that could pose a problem? Say an artist like MXPX, say they came to them and say, "We want you to sign with us, and your new stuff will be on here. Their new stuff won't be on Spotify now." So now everything's diverging. Where kind of what's going to end up happening with streaming services with television, where every fucking network wants their own streaming service, and it all costs $5. By the end of the day, if you buy into everything you want, you're paying $200 a month for television. It's going to run into that potential.
If you have an album on one service, it doesn't necessarily mean it couldn't be on another service.
No, but
you're going to
say Apple Music might want to say, "Yeah, we really don't want to support Spotify, so we'll charge an arm and a leg above and beyond."
Why? And that's why I said if they've got part ownership of the music, if it's played on Spotify, they're still getting paid for it.
But the artist might not. It would be the same problem.
It would still no. It would be the same thing. It would just be whatever the percentage that they get.
Well, say Spotify's paying now. Now Apple owns MXPX or has MXPX, and they get their new album, and Spotify still only wants to pay 3 cents or 0.003 cents, whereas on Apple, the artist is getting say 5 cents for every play. Apple Music isn't going to make anything off of that.
Yes, they will, because Apple Music is the record label. So Spotify currently pays 70% of the cost to the label. So Apple's going to get 70% of that cut, and the artist is going to get
70% of 3 cents or 0.003 cents.
Correct.
So it's not there's no real financial benefit to
Apple
it.
would make more money having the music playing on Spotify than just on their own service. See what I'm saying?
Well, no, because you say that 70% is going to the label. I think once Spotify pays the bill, because they're just licensing the music.
Correct.
So they pay the bill to the license holder, which is the record label. The record label determines that 70%. Spotify is saying, here's 70% of that, and here's the 30%.
That's the contract. So Spotify it's the same contract because there's only 3 record labels.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is
the
that
3 main record labels.
Say it was, just for simplicity's sake, say it was $1. Right now, Spotify is giving that $1 to the license holder, which is the record label, for the majority of the
70% of it.
No. They're giving the $1. They're giving the full $1. If that's what their payout for the license is, they're giving the record label $1. The record label is keeping 70 cents of that.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with Spotify.
Yes.
So that's my point. Yes, what you're talking about
that's
going to benefit Apple, but that wouldn't benefit the artist.
That's the contract that Spotify made with the record. So Spotify had to come up, I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but there was like $1.5 million or $2 million up front that Spotify had to come up with before they could license the music through the record companies. So it was a contract that they made with the record companies up front. They had to prepay for X amount of plays.
Okay. But that doesn't cover everything they have. I mean, how many record labels are there? Is what I'm saying.
There's 3 main ones.
Yeah, but most of the artists I listen to aren't even on those labels.
Okay. But that yes and no, because even like smaller record labels are still like offshoots of the big record companies.
Yeah, I'd have to look at if there's parent companies of some of them, because I can think of like one specifically that it's a progressive rock label. They're housed in Germany. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're connected to anything else. But maybe Warner Brothers, now that I think about it. So there might be a connection there. But is Warner Brothers one of those big 3? Sony, EMI, and what?
See, EMI, it's I don't remember what the other. It's called something different.
Maybe EMI is Sony now. Maybe that EMI is under Sony.
Maybe it is.
Because EMI used to be one of the biggest record companies in the world.
Universal Music Group, Sony, and Warner Music Group, and then EMI. So I guess there's 4.
Okay.
Universal Music Group. So it's the big 4. So the big 4 control about 88% of the music market. Universal Music Group takes just under 30%. Sony takes just under another 30%. Warner Music Group takes about 20%. EMI is about 10%, and then independent labels are about 12%.
Which is 102% if my math is good. So I don't know how that works. 30, 30, 20, that's 80. And then 12.
Well, because it's less than 30%. And then less than 30%. Less than 20%. Gotcha, but it's roughly about those numbers.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair enough then.
So I guess there's four big labels.
Right.
But Warner, Sony, and Universal are all U.S. based.
Right. EMI used to be too. It's not anymore.
Not anymore. I guess. Well, according to the old Wikipedia, the old authoritative source that it is.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't say where they're out of.
Yeah. I thought I could be wrong. I just know they were huge at one time. They were probably bigger than Sony and Universal. Warner Brothers has always been big. At least since the 70s. The 70s they were huge. All the big labels. I mean, they had a ton of
Actually,
big
according to
artists.
this article I just pulled up, EMI is no longer in existence.
Oh. Well, why is it on that list?
Oh, because it was renamed. It does still exist,
okay,
but it's been renamed.
To what?
Oh, I just clicked off of it.
Because the logo still says EMI.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's interesting to see the transformation from vinyl, from a mostly vinyl industry, from the late 40s through.
Well, I think it goes back even a little farther than that, but vinyl records started in like the 20s.
Yeah, but it became really popular in the 40s. Yeah, because
listen to
most
music.
people still listen to just the radio.
True, but record players were more compact and easier
Yeah.
to own. They weren't just the old Victrola style where they crank.
Yep. But it was really kind of interesting to see the transformation from the vinyl era of really about 40, 45 years or so to CDs, which were really only 20 years, and now we moved into...
yeah, I don't even think the CDs lasted that long, honestly.
Well, but you figure late
84,
late 80s
say-
to mid 2000s.
83, 84 to, yeah, I guess. Probably, yeah, late 2000s.
So 20 years. Yeah. So now to digital. So I don't know. I think you're right though. I think vinyl is kind of like the soul of music,
because it has been for damn near a century.
Yeah.
And it was the first time.
Plus, it's just fucking cool to look at a damn record, to hold it.
Yes, and listen to it and see it spinning. It's everything. Like I said, it's everything about it is physical, and you connect with it.
If you're listening to this and it's been a long time since you've listened to a record, listen to one. If you listen to a record, it's got a different.
It's warm.
Sound.
It's a warmer
Yeah.
feeling to it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that comes from everything about it being physical. You are a part of that listening experience physically, because you have to touch the record to put it on. You have to move the needle. Even with an automatic needle, you still got to move the needle.
Yeah.
You're moving the needle. You're placing the needle. You're seeing the record spin. You can see the connection between the needle and the vinyl itself. Everything about it is physical.
Yeah.
You're a part of it.
It's just interesting that we're kind of like coming back to that.
Well,
time.
I think it's one of those situations where we got it right the first time, and that was the way it just should have stayed.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know though. You got anything else to say on any end? I mean,
no. I think I think we've established that we're very passionate about vinyl, and streaming music is our secondary because that's what it is, and it's convenient.
It's very convenient.
Yeah,
it's very convenient.
And I mean, just as a point of reference, we went to record stores today, you and I.
Yeah.
I had no intention of buying anything. I spent $100.
Yeah.
I mean, if that should tell the record company something. I had no intention. There was nothing special I was really looking for. I walked away spending $100 on 3 records.
So. I was cheap. I only spent like $35.
Yeah, but you got a family to feed. I don't.
That's true.
I just have my own fat self.
And one of the records I bought was, and that's the other cool thing is you can go buy these. You can go out there and buy used records, and I don't know. It just,
which is what I mean. For a long time, I thought that all we had was used records.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were still making them through the 2000s. I thought they stopped.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's about all I got, Ian.
Yeah. Fair enough.
As always, you can email us any questions or comments to contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and check out the website, and that's about it.
All of the above.
Well, until next time.
Yep, I'll try not to disappoint you so much next time.
You disappoint me every fucking time.
Fuck off. Talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a crowd around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you 2 cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that you're sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.